Okay, let's talk more about the project bin. And as you remember, the project bin is where you import all your assets. And assets are video or audio. And they might be photographs or graphics um, that you made in another Adobe application or even a whole different application. In any case, I have some files in here. I have a bin that I created and I put some video files in. And these are MTS files. It's just sort of a higher level of video files, so don't worry about that. They're usually going to be MOVs or AVIs or something that you recognize. And then I have a couple of royalty-free songs from bensound.com, which by the way is a great site if you need royalty-free. And so there we go. It's pretty organized already, so when I get ready to go, I'll be in good shape. I want to show you just sort of how to operate in this project bin. So I was talking about how these are MTS files. Let me show you a little bit more about the information you can find out in this in the project bin about your clips. This is the default setting. This is the order that you'll see things. You can actually drag them around, and I'll do that in a second, and add some stuff to it as well. So the first thing you see is the frame rate. Now that's probably the most important thing that you can see here, and that's why it's up front. This says that all these clips are 29.97 frames per second. Frames per second, we usually call this 30 frames per second. We just round it up to 30 so that we don't have to say 29.97 every time. So when you see 29.97, just know that that means 30 frames per second. And some of the other ones are going to be the same thing, and we round them up. So when you learn about the different frames per second, just realize that some of them are actually just rounded up from the actual value. But that's a good thing to know here, because if I have all the same frame rates for all these videos, because I shot them all on the same camera at the same time, but you might actually have different frame rates. So you have to be careful that if you're going to start a sequence by dragging one of these clips over to your timeline, that you drag one that represents the majority of the clips that you have. So here I have mostly 30 frames per second. If I had one that was maybe 60 frames per second or 25 or 24 frames per second, I wouldn't want to drag it to the timeline to set the timeline up. I would want to drag one of these other ones. Alright, so you can also see basically how long the clips are. You can, if you set in and out points, this will change. The default now is the beginning and the end of the videos. And this all seems like same information, but as you start using these, this information will change. And then there's some other things over here that are kind of helpful. If you go all the way down, some of these things you'll never use, but I like these two right here. If you shot a lot of stuff and you haven't been able to go through it and you just imported everything, you can actually mark certain clips as good, that you might want to use them, and the ones you know you're not going to use but you don't want to take them out or delete them from the project just in case, you can hide them. So when I click, let me click on one of these. I'll click on the first clip here, and I'm going to say hide that one. So now I can't see that one. It's not there anymore. But I can also mark things as good, so that I know that when I go to edit, that I can just come back here and say, yes, I decided I like that one. Or I can tell what scene it's, this is in scene 1, this should be in scene 2, this should be in scene 6, or whatever, and then I've pre-organized them. And then these are way at the end of this column or this row. I can actually drag them up further up. I could, if I wanted that to be the second row, I could do that. Oh, I didn't retain the information. There we go. And the same with any of the other ones. There's also, if you right click anywhere in here in the title bar, you can open up the meta display, and it gives you a bazillion things that you can do. Most of them, we have Premiere has a whole bunch that you can choose from. If you don't want all these, you can uncheck them. So this is really simple. Or you can, there's some more under basic. So that's just really up to you. That's just to help you keep organized. Now, another thing I wanted to show you is that when you can open a bin this way. Whoops, let me give you more space here. Or you can double click on it. It depends on how your Premiere set up. Sometimes if you double click, it will pop into its own window. Sometimes it will just stay in the same bin. I like it when it stays in the same bin because then you don't have a floating window to get in the way. But you can also make that bigger. So that is how that goes. And if you want to go back, there's this little file arrow right there. Other things to know about this project bin is that well, you can look at all of these. Let me open video back up again. Well, you can look at all these and see their names, and I would, want to go through and rename these specific things. Like this one, maybe it would be, I don't know what it is though, right? I can't rename it really because I don't know what it is because I can't see it. Now, there's a way to open it up, and you would just double click on it, and it would show it up in your source monitor. So there you go. This is actually my son. So I would name this CU for close up, and then I can name it whatever. Something like that, right? But even easier than having to open it up here is if I can change it down here from a list view to an icon view. So if I click icon view, then I can actually see the videos. And even better than that, if I take my mouse and roll over them, I can kind of quickly see what those clips are about. Okay? So that's sort of the biggest features here. You can also search if you've named all your files appropriately. You can search for them. I'm not sure why they have it here and here, but there you go. And then you can create a new bin, a new folder, and then a new item. If you click that, oh, you can't see it. Let me scroll this up so you can see it. If you click the new item, you can click a lot of different things, and we'll go over this in another video.